Hey everybody, it's Shep Hyken here. Welcome to this week's virtual book club. Very excited as people start to come in to the live stream. We're going to give them just a few minutes to do so. So looking forward to having a lively chat about, here it is, Be Amazing or Go Home. And I'm going to put this out for later on. This is going to be great. We're going to have a great program today. I can't wait to talk about this book. So we'll give everybody a few moments to come on in. Thank you. I enjoy these discussions as well. They put me on my, they keep me on my toes, so to speak, my A game, if you will. And you know what I am going to do is perhaps if somebody in my office is watching, they'll come in and turn off my overhead light so I don't have to leave the, there we go. There, it takes that shine off the head, doesn't it? Thank you, whoever that was in there, but that's great. That's great. All right, we got Robert coming in from Dallas. I see he's almost here. There he is. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, it is morning. It's actually almost lunchtime for me. So excellent. We're going to start in about 2 minutes. And we'll get going. So, Robert, I know that you can't talk, but how are things in Dallas? Are people starting to come back to work? Hey, Linda. Anastasia, good to see you again. So I think the world is starting to open up again. I'm excited about that. Here in St. Louis, Missouri, this is the first week the team has been back into the office full force, even though we're practicing our distancing and actually where'd it go? Should be here, sitting on my desk somewhere. I've been clearing my desk off. My mask. Here's one of my masks. This is what my new favorite mask. I'm going to put this on. I feel a little bit bad because Robert is from Dallas, and I'm a big Dallas. He knows I'm a big hockey fan. He's a Dallas Stars fan. I'm a St. Louis Blues fan. So, but it'd be interesting trying to do a full presentation in a mask. I guess that could be coming sometime soon. Hey, Bob, good to see you. All right. And Robert says things are opening up slowly in Dallas. I think so here. The restaurants right around our area are still all carry out and delivery, except the Capitol Grill, which is right over a catty corner to our office building. I noticed, had valet service going last night. So it looks to me like at least they're opening up and everybody's practicing social distancing. All right. It's about 2.5 minutes past the hour. A number of people are coming in. More people continue to do so. But we, in honor and in the spirit of being amazing and being here on time, are going to go ahead and start. You get to see me with my glasses today. So let me go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Today's topic is Be Amazing or Go Home. And we're going to be talking about this book and the story behind the book. And we're going to just touch on the 7 habits that are in the book. There's actually 35 habits, but 7 categories of habits, if you will, that they all fall into. And I actually enjoyed going back and rereading the book because even though I wrote it, it's been about 1.5 years or so. And I said, oh, wow, that is a great story. So I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite stories as well. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get to the story behind the book. And this is what happened. One day, my former assistant, she was here, she'd been here for about 1.5 years or so, and she started to come in late. Now, it wasn't a big deal that she showed up late the first day. Robert, come on, go Stars. I hope that the Stars and the Blues get to play sometime very soon, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. So anyway, my assistant came in late on a particular day. Didn't think anything of it till she came in late the second day. Still didn't think much of it. By the third day, I was noticing there was this habit, and I wasn't exactly thrilled with this habit for a couple of reasons. Number one, you'll learn in a little while why it's important, I think, to show up on time. But I thought that her representing me and my brand as my assistant, she had to represent me, and she didn't have to have, the long work hours, because I'm a little crazy when it comes to that. But, being on time, doing the right thing, customer focused, my assistant needs to be a reflection of me. So after 3 or 4 days of her coming in late in a row, I brought her in. I said, we got to do something about this. And she said, "You're right. Tomorrow I'll be on time." And so she was late again the next day. So I brought her back in. I said, "So what's going on? Why are you late every day?" And she said to me, "I'm late because I moved. I moved from 2 miles away, where it only took me 5 minutes to get here, to almost 25 miles away, where I can't figure out with traffic how long it takes. So what I'm doing is every day I'm leaving a little bit earlier and hoping to get here on time." And I said, um, we're all about being amazing, and amazing people, this is what they do. They don't leave a little bit earlier to see if they can get there on time. They leave really, really early, get there way too early, and the next day they leave a little bit later. It's kind of like the opposite way of thinking. And she said, "Oh, that's not a bad idea. Maybe tomorrow I'll try that." I go, "Well, thank you. But it's really important that you show up here on time, ready to amaze." And so the next day she didn't show up on time again. I brought her back in. I said, "I don't know what's going on, but what's our mantra here at Shepherd Presentations?" And it's 3 words: always be amazing. Being amazing to our clients, teaching our clients to be amazing for their customers, clients, guests, patients, members, whatever they want to call them. And of course, we want to try to be as amazing as we can internally and a good place to work. And I said, "What's our mantra?" And she said, "Always be amazing." And I then said, "Do you think showing up late every day for now, at least a week, if not longer, is that amazing behavior?" And she said, "Not really." And I said, "Well, then the choice is obvious. What is it? You need to be amazing or go home." And I knew that was a fairly harsh way of putting it. And then she smiled back at me, and I said, "What do you think?" And she goes, "That is a great title for a book. You need to write that down." Guess what happened? Be amazing or go home came about in that moment. So I said, "Here's what we need to do. We need to fix it." And it was about, I'm going to say July, August timeframe. I said, "You know what? If you're still here at the end of the year, that means you made it happen, that you turned things around, that you went back to being the amazing person that we've always known you to be. And I promise you, you will get a nice raise. You're going to love it. And I just really hope you're here." And guess what? She was here at the end of the year. She figured it out. She managed to turn it around. So turns out that being 25 minutes away required her to drive like an hour plus each way to work. And the bummer for me is I lost a great person when she found something that was 5 minutes from where she lived and can work there. But that's another part of the story. The concept behind the book was simply to be amazing or go home. So that's the basic premise. And as you know from the last several virtual book clubs that we've done, we talk about how to be amazing. And amazing isn't over the top, blow me away. Amazing is simple things like being on time every day, doing what you say you're going to do, being polite. They're always so friendly. That's the word, always. Better than average all of the time. Average is just satisfactory. Okay, people are moving along, doing what they're supposed to do only because that's what they have to do. And they're not going any further to take it to the next level. The next level may be as simple as a smile. Robert knows in his facility, as people or the guests come in to where they are, there's no reason that the employees can't smile, be friendly, greet people properly. It's very easy. It sounds easy. What makes it hard, by the way, is that consistency. And we talked about that the last few weeks. So I'm not going to belabor that point. But remember that moment of truth: misery, mediocrity, and magic. The moment of truth, when customers come into contact with what you do, they form an impression. It goes 3 ways. It's a moment of misery if it's bad. It's a moment of mediocrity if it's average or satisfactory. It's a moment of magic if it's anything even slightly better than average. And being consistently better than average all of the time is what makes the great companies great. And that's what makes customers say, "I love that company. They're amazing." So let's talk about the habits real quickly, and then we'll open it up for a little Q&A and commentary. The first habit is amazing people show up ready to amaze. And my assistant struggled with that for a little while, and then she turned it around. But really, I'll share with you why this is real important to me. It was drilled into me many, many years ago. And there's several examples in the book about showing up ready to amaze. But I think the ones that I'm drawn toward more are focused on being on time and respecting others, because that's part of what it is. Simply a respect toward others. If you show up late, it shows you disrespect them. You know, I meet a friend for lunch, they show up 15 minutes late. Do they not think that I made the effort to get here early, that I stopped working at my office and I could have done 15 minutes more of work? So that's kind of like my thinking. David Turk, our friend from New York, says, I'm always amazed when a client is surprised that we're always with their appointments. On time means being at the appointed place at the appointed time, ready to go. Doing what we say we're going to do is a lost art. Isn't that a shame? And my feeling is at the level of, and this is what David says, my feeling is the level of confidence we provide our customers with this simple point is what separates the great from everyone else. You know what, David? It's common sense that unfortunately it's not so common. And isn't that a shame? Hey, my friend Ricardo, all the way from Germany, is here with us again. Thanks for being here, Ricardo. And it was great to chat with you earlier this week. All right, so back to amazing people showing up on time. Vince Lombardi, the great football coach of the Green Bay Packers, and that's American football, Ricardo, not the international football, as also known here as soccer. He had a saying that said, everybody, tomorrow morning's practice is at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. 15 minutes early, because if you don't show up 15 minutes early, I'm basically count you as late. And they came up with this idea of Lombardi time. And if you go to the big stadium where the Green Bay Packers football team plays, there's actually a huge clock, and that clock is 15 minutes early. And if you didn't know the story, you'd think the clock was wrong, but no, it's right. Years ago, when I was 12 years old, I was doing birthday parties, and I built up my birthday party business to where I could do 4 or 5 birthday parties maybe on a Saturday afternoon. I'd start at 11 o'clock, do 45 minutes, drive to the next one. That one starts at 12:30. The next one starts at 2 o'clock. And I did these all day. And I had it down. I could take my box of tricks, open them up, and they're ready to go. As soon as I do the trick, I put it right back where it needs to be. It was so good that if I walked into a home of a birthday child, the parents could say, you're going to perform in that corner, and I'm ready to go in under a minute. So I felt being there just a few minutes early was perfect. My dad said to me, Shep, at what point do you think the parents might look at their watch and wonder, are you going to show up at all? I think, what do you mean? He says, well, if you just show up 2 minutes before 1 o'clock, which is when the party or your show is supposed to start, don't you think they're going to be a little nervous that you might not show up at all? So I said to my dad, I don't know, what do you think, 15, 20 minutes? He says, exactly. You need to be there about 15 or 20 minutes early. You want to be there before they start looking at their watch, worrying whether or not you're going to show up. And that way they don't have to worry. It's just, it's going to cause them stress, and it's going to reflect poorly later on when they think back on the experience. Well, what that forced me to do was eliminate one of my shows on a Saturday or Sunday to allow myself a little extra time. But it was the right thing to do. My dad was teaching me showing up on time is more than just showing up on time. It's getting there a little bit early and making sure I'm ready to go, as David points out. And again, it sounds like common sense. Unfortunately, not always so common. All right, let's go to the second habit, which is amazing people are proactive. Go ahead of what somebody is thinking and try to get ahead of the situation. We talk about proactive service in general terms of being able to reach out to a customer when we know there's a problem before the customer finds out about the problem at all, or before the customer actually reaches out to us. And I think that's a really cool thing to be able to do. Last week, maybe it was this week, it was this week, just this past Wednesday, my Shepherd letter. And if you don't receive the Shepherd letter and you go to customerservicearticles.com, that's customerservicearticles.com, that actual Shepherd letter, the topic was about the peace of mind phone call. Stacy Sherman, who not only works at a company, but is also a customer experience, she's a rock star. She has her own blog. She talks about how her company reaches out to customers proactively to give them peace of mind. And that's what being proactive is about. I'm going to put it in the most simplest terms, metaphorical, if you will. You're at a restaurant, you're drinking your water glass, and the water is almost empty. And before you have a chance to even ask, and before the water glass is actually empty, the server is over there pouring your glass of water, being proactive. That's what proactive service is. Number 3 is amazing people want feedback. This is a powerful one. We want to get feedback. We want to know if we're doing a good job. I don't want people to be so concerned with feedback that they come across as insecure, but we thrive on feedback. If we ask feedback, we get feedback, we can then further improve. And the reason to get feedback isn't to validate, oh, we're doing good for ourselves. It's to validate that the customer is happy and also look for opportunities for us to improve based on that customer's feedback. So love feedback, good feedback, positive and negative, is very powerful. One is a little bit validating and the other one is an opportunity for improvement. Number 4 is that the amazing people take personal responsibility. So being accountable for what you do, taking ownership of what happens to you. I was walking around High Point, North Carolina's the High Point University. I was being given a tour by the president of the university, Dr. Nito Cobain. And he was introducing me to faculty members, to staff members. And there was a young girl who was her first year in college, and she was sitting behind the desk. And on the desk, it said concierge. I said, oh, wow, you've got a concierge. He said, yes, we have student concierge all throughout the campus. And their role is to answer any questions and help any of the students with any issues they might have. And this girl, without hesitating, said, I love this job. It may not be my fault, but it's my opportunity to take care of a fellow student. She was taking personal responsibility and accountability for other people's problems. By the way, if you're ever in a customer support world environment and you have to hire good people, you will learn that there are people that love and thrive on taking care of other people's problems and solving issues and dealing with complaints. They absolutely love it. There are others that if you put them in this environment, in 20 minutes, they're going to implode. It's what they hate doing. But there are some that thrive on it. And I believe that the best people, they don't have to be in a call center environment, but they recognize the opportunity. Amazing people recognize the opportunity to take responsibility and own whatever comes their way. Again, it may not be their fault, but it may be their opportunity. Or maybe it is their fault and they accept it and they choose to do something about it. The 5th habit, amazing people are authentic. It means they're genuine. It's who you are and what you are. I just finished a call with a client just prior to coming on to our virtual book club today. And the client was talking about the concept of understanding the intent of a customer's question and not responding with a canned response, something that's already typed up that we just cut and paste, but understanding the intent so that we can give them a truly genuine, personalized experience because it proves that we're actually listening to them. My favorite story in this chapter, by the way, which is one of my favorite stories throughout the book, is the Chet Atkins authenticity. And I don't know if you can see behind me, I have a couple of guitars. Chet Atkins is an amazing musician, was an amazing musician, phenomenal, probably one of the top guitar players of all time. And on his deathbed, he was in his home on his deathbed, and a very good friend of mine is friends of Chet Atkins, or was friends of Chet Atkins. And another friend of mine said, boy, I would love to have a Chet Atkins autograph. If I send a guitar to you, would you mind helping me and getting Chet Atkins to sign a guitar? So this one friend sent a guitar to my other friend who was friends with Chet Atkins. Now, this guy went to the guitar store and he bought the least expensive guitar that he could find. All he wanted was a guitar with an autograph. It was the cheapest, worst sounding guitar. Sent it to my friend in Nashville, Tennessee. My friend goes to Chet Atkins' home. And that evening he said, Chet, I've got a friend of mine who has a guitar he'd love you to sign. Would you mind signing the guitar? Now, here's where it gets really cool. Chet Atkins doesn't just sign a guitar. he plays the guitar. And his concept in the way he was thinking always is that I don't just want people to have a guitar that's signed by me. I want them to have a guitar that was played by me. That's truly being a genuinely authentic, kind person. Now, I will tell you that my buddy confided in me. He says, yeah, I got that guitar. I gave it to Chet. He signed the guitar. He started playing the guitar. And he said to my friend, Kevin, this is the worst guitar I have ever played in my entire life. They had a little laugh about it. And then shortly thereafter, he passed away. And I reflect on that story and realizing that even on his deathbed, he was trying to be as authentic and genuine to his fans as he possibly could be. And then I smile and I kind of find a little humor in the fact that perhaps, I hate to think that he passed away and the last guitar he ever played was the worst guitar he ever played in his life. I just love that story. I love the authenticity behind it. All right, fifth habit. Oh, that is the fifth habit. The sixth habit, amazing people turn moments of misery into moments of magic. In other words, and this is kind of what we talked about before, that concierge, the young student at High Point University said, I take other people's problems and I look at them as my responsibility to resolve them. Well, in the case of moments of misery, they're typically complaints, and we have to have ownership of what comes our way. I talked about this when we had our Moments of Magic book club a couple, 3 weeks ago, but there's a 5-step process to managing a moment of misery. And very quickly, number one, you acknowledge there's a problem, such as, I can understand you'd be upset about that. I would be too. I can't believe this happened. Whatever you want to do to acknowledge that the customer is bringing a problem to you and you're saying, yes, I see there's a problem. Number two, you apologize for it. And by the way, you can apologize first and then acknowledge. It doesn't matter as long as these 2 steps take place at the beginning. And an apology can simply be, hey, I'm really sorry this happened. This isn't the way we like to do things here at our organization. Let me see what I can do to help you out. Now that moves us into number 3, which is to discuss the solution. It could be a resolution right on the spot, or it could be something that takes time. I was just working with a company, B2B, they're a manufacturer of automation. And they said, a lot of times our customers come to us with problems and we realize it's a big deal. And it could take us months, if not even a year or more, to actually get in and resolve the problem because there's so much behind it, technical. But we discuss the resolution and we move forward from there. Number 4 is to take responsibility and take ownership for it. And this is something we talked about already, but that's a very, very important piece. It may not be your fault, but it's now your opportunity. You might have been gone last week when the customer came in and had their problem, but now they're talking to you about it. You own it. And number 5 is to act with urgency. So acknowledge, apologize, fix it, or discuss what the fix will be. Own it and act with urgency. Do those, and people say they're amazing even when there's a problem. I know I can always count on them. And finally, the 7th habit is amazing people habitually focus on excellence. And I love this habit. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite parts of the whole book, and there's lots of favorite parts, but I'm going to find it. It is, I should have earmarked it. It should be on page 211, I believe. Yes, there it is. And essentially, I jumped ahead of myself. Oh, okay. On 209, sweep like Beethoven plays piano. So it's a habit. And this particular chapter was focused on make a lifetime commitment to amazement. Dr. Martin Luther King, yeah, there it is on page 211, down at the bottom. Dr. Martin Luther King, in one of his speeches, this is what he said. If a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets as if Michelangelo painted, as Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. I love that. Taking the most ordinary, most almost mundane job and saying, I don't care how mundane or ordinary it is. I want to do the best job I can at what I do. The 7th habit is about amazing people habitually focusing on excellence. And when we do that, It becomes a habit. Day in and day out, we need to think about it. I know many of you may or may not have the book, and if you don't have the book, I'm not suggesting you should buy it. But there were plenty of articles that I shared that talked about these different habits and some of what's on there. But if you think about what it takes to create a habit, it is an ongoing daily routine that eventually becomes normal, that eventually becomes natural. And I want you to think about that. It's that simple. Is there something you want to work on that you're struggling to work on? Simply think about it every day. Put your mind to it for just a few minutes and say to yourself, what is it that I can do to work on this? Make it better, improve on it. That's pretty much all it takes. All right. So those are the 7 habits. I always ask, what are the keepers? What will you do? What will you change? What will you stop doing? What will you share with your team from today's presentation? And by the way, on the different platforms that we're on, you can come back and watch the replay. If you like this, you can share it with your team and then hear from them. What is it that we can do, that we can start doing, stop doing, etc. So that there's a takeaway from all this. All right, I see we have a question. How can I cultivate the leadership mindset within my employees and my coworkers? Wow, that's a great one. As a matter of fact, this is almost a perfect lead into what we're going to talk about next week, which is the Amaze Every Customer Every Time, because there is a strategy in there, or a tool in there, as I like to use, about making sure that everybody understands they have ownership of what they do, which we talked about here, but they can act like an owner. They can act like a leader. In order for this to happen, we must empower people to make good decisions. So as a leader, if you want to cultivate the leadership mindset within employees, hire good people, train them well, and then empower them to do the job. Tell them how far they can go to take care of customers. And this is important. You want to teach them where the line in the sand is, because if they cross the line, you have to bring them back in and use every one of these, the perfect model examples, as well as some that you might not be happy with, to use as teaching examples, not just for the person that's doing it, but if you see somebody do something and you think, you know what, somebody else might do that as well, let's go ahead and make sure they don't do it. So use it as a teaching opportunity. If somebody does something that hasn't been done before and you think, wow, that's brilliant, all of us should be doing that. Obviously, another teaching opportunity. Marissa has a question. What kind of exceptions do you have to any of your rules? I just wrote an article this morning that's going to show up in my Shepherd letter in 2 weeks, and it's about rules. And it's about the ridiculous interpretation of rules. And it kind of ties into what we've just talked about with the idea of empowering people. I'm going to give you a little hint as to what's coming up. The story I'm going to refer to happened to me in an airport just before we all went into the whole quarantine situation, not being able to travel and fly. I was at an airport. I don't need to tell you what city. I don't need to tell you the restaurant that I was standing in line. There was one person ahead of me, and she ordered breakfast. She ordered an egg, bacon, cheese, biscuit sandwich of some kind, whatever it was. Sounded great, hash browns and orange juice. And I said, that's exactly what I want. So this person ordered, paid the money, stepped aside, waiting for her food. And by the way, I noticed there are lots of breakfast sandwiches that were out there. And I said, I'm going to make this easy. I'm going to have exactly what she's having. And the person behind the counter, the employee, said to me, I'm sorry, it's 10:30 and we stopped serving breakfast at 10:30. And I went, what? And apparently that was the rule. No breakfast after 10:30. Number one, this person was right in front of me and they just ordered. It wasn't like it was 10 minutes later. It was literally seconds later. Number two, there were already a bunch of breakfast sandwiches sitting out ready to be sold in the oven warmers you could see there. And I said, seriously? And she says, that's just the way it is. And I looked over immediately next to this restaurant. It's another restaurant. It was a food court. And a gentleman looked at me. He smiled. He says, sir, we'll be happy to sell you a breakfast sandwich. And I looked over and he goes, I can't believe what just happened. The point of that story is that rules, there are rules that cannot be broken, rules that cause harm to the company, rules that are illegal, that you can't do. You can't sell alcohol to a minor. That would be a rule. You can't ship something across state lines that might not be allowed. Again, alcohol is an example of that. Something just may be illegal. A rule is a rule when it comes to certain things like that. However, rules are also guidelines. guidelines where you say, this is really, we've got rules, but they're meant to be guidelines, certain of these. This is typically what it is. But if you find an opportunity to take care of a customer and it's not going to hurt us in any way, and it's only going to further relationship, that's worth doing. So I hope that answers your question, Marissa. And make sure you subscribe to the Shepherd Letter and be sure to get these articles. Every week I come out with another article. All right. Which habit do you think is most underrated? Wow. Let me take a list of my habits. Underrated. I would say feedback is underrated. I think the reason it might be underrated is there's a fear of getting feedback and being told something that you don't want to hear. Where amazing people relish in feedback, a lot of people are afraid of the feedback. And that's what I would say that would be one that's underrated. I see Steve Towers is asking a question. Is it okay if I repost? Absolutely. Spread the word. One of my books, as I mentioned, I think it was last week's book, was The Amazement Revolution. The only way we can create a revolution is to spread the word. So you're part of the army that's going to share. So we have time for a couple of more questions. Happy to take a couple of more. Let's see what's out there. How can I personalize a gift experience for my customers without it coming across as impersonal branding or selling? Wow. And that one comes also something we talked about out of the Amazement Revolution. It's called the after experience, a personalized gift. I guess it could be a pre-experience too. I want to send something ahead of time to let the customer know I'm thinking about it. So how do we make it look like it's not impersonal, or that it is? Yeah, that it's not impersonal, that it's something meaningful. Well, number one, get rid of the label or the logo that you put on certain gifts. If you receive a gift and it has your company, or it has the company that sent it to you's logo on it, that is not a gift. That is a marketing piece. I know that's a little extreme. In some cases, you want the logo. Like I'm a huge, St. Louis Blues fan. So if the Blues sent me something with the Blues logo on it, I would be happy to have a Blues logo on it. There is a great restaurant. I received a set of steak knives from them. These are the steak knives that they actually use in the restaurant. And you want to know what was really cool? On the box, it had their name on it. But on the steak knife itself, which is the only, my guests will never see the box. They're just going to see the steak knives. Doesn't have a logo. Why? Because it's not about the logo. But every time I look at that steak knife, I'm going to remember this is the restaurant that gave me these steak knives. So I would suggest if you want to keep your branding off of it, make sure that the gift is relevant or unique or fun or something that's unexpected, and something that it's not so much that it's incongruent with your beliefs, but it doesn't necessarily need to be on brand. You give a gift. If it's a good gift and people are going to want to keep it, every time they see it, they're going to think of you. All right. Steve, another great comment. Thank you very much. I love the feedback discussion. How do we make sure the feedback is representative and actionable? I think it's as simple as this. Once you've shared the feedback and you're sharing it specifically with somebody you work with, ask them, so what are we going to do next time this happens? And have them feedback to you now their interpretation of what you just shared with them, and confirm it, make them feel good about it. And then when you actually see that action taking place, say something to them. That's what great coaches and leaders do. All right. We have time. Let's do one or two more. What's your favorite habit of amazing people? Wow. Well, I share with you one of my favorite parts of the book was the Martin Luther King Jr. quote, and I love the idea that it's habitual. That you've got to practice these and think about them all the time. I would have to go back to the first habit of the book, which forced me to actually write the book, and that was that amazing people show up on time, ready to amaze. Think back, the famous philosopher Woody Allen. Woody Allen had a comment that something like, and it's actually in the book, I can't find it, but it's something as close to 90% of success in life is just showing up. And if you think about it, just showing up, if it gets you that far, that's amazing. Years ago, I was doing a speech for a client. And I showed up early, which is what I typically do. I was in the day before. My speech was the next day. and they were in a panic. They said, our other speaker, they're not here. We don't know where they are. We can't reach them. Oh my gosh. And I just didn't know what to say other than to say to them, well, when is the speaker supposed to go on? In the next 45 minutes. I will be happy to step in and do a presentation. As a matter of fact, why don't I do my presentation I'm going to do tomorrow? I'll do it now. And if the speaker doesn't show up tomorrow, I'll do a different presentation tomorrow. And I remember the client getting up and introducing me and saying that, hey, for some reason, and by the way, it didn't make the other speaker look bad, but they said, we've had a change in the schedule. There was a problem with the other speaker not being here. So I'd like to introduce tomorrow's speaker this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Shep. And I remember my first line. Woody Allen once said, 90% of success is just showing up. Well, here I am. Hopefully it's just going to get better from here. And so I like that idea. Show up ready to amaze. I love the fact that I get to talk about some people I work with, as well as mention my father and the lesson that he taught me. All right. Do we have any other questions? Yes. What's the number one secret to creating and delivering amazement? All right. This is the perfect question to end on. Thank you for asking that. It's simply this, and we talked about it at the beginning of this presentation, and we talked about it in other presentations. The secret to creating and delivering amazement is a habit of being focused on what's right in front of us, and then making sure we do it just a little better than average. A little better than average all of the time. Practice that. Look for opportunities to do it. Last week, we talked about an exercise called the Moments of Magic card, or it might have been the week before we did the Moments of Magic card. All it simply is an index card where we write down an example of when we created a moment of magic for someone else. And if we get into the habit of doing that once a week, and by the way, I don't want anybody to write a novel. It's an index card. It's basically a 3x5 card. It's about that size, and that's all. It's room for 2 or 3 sentences. That is it. You write down an example of when you created a great experience. And when you start to get in the habit of recognizing when you're creating those great experiences, then you could start working on what to do when you have this experience in front of you, and you start to become more aware of it. And because it's repetitive, you're doing it on an ongoing basis, recognizing that you're doing this, it starts to have sustainability. So here's how it works. You've got awareness. Next, you start to repeat over and over again, recognizing that awareness happening over and over again. That awareness, by the way, if you're in a group setting, if your manager, leader, accountant, if you want to have a discussion about it and share those ideas with others, that now forces some accountability, because you're forced to actually not just think about it, but now you're sharing it. So you've got awareness, repetition, accountability, and that's going to lead to sustainability. So, Ruben asked, the 8th habit. What's the 8th habit? You know what? There is an 8th habit. We'll close with that one. All right, this is perfect. The 8th habit is a habit that's really an attitude. It's an attitude of gratitude. I actually, you know what? Let's make sure, I'm going to go back and I'm going to post at some point below a link to the 8th habit, because I actually wrote a little piece on this. The 8th habit is the attitude of gratitude. So what I did is I got into a habit, and I did this for 1 solid year. You're familiar with a pocket planner. It's like a little pocket calendar. The pocket. Trina from Denmark is here. Hello, Trina. My friend Trina from years and years and years ago. Hello, Trina. Anyway, the pocket calendar. And what I did at the end of every day, actually in the evening before I went to bed, I would write down something good that happened to me at work and something good that happened in my personal life. Every day I had to write this down. So I didn't call it a day planner. I called it a day reflector. And at the end of a year, I completed a full calendar, 365 days. Now, on the weekends, obviously, I didn't work, so I just wrote down something that happened personal in my life that I was thankful for, that something good happened. It could be something as simple as taking my wife out to dinner and just having a wonderful date night, or it could be spending a little bit of time with one of my children, or maybe just going on an outing with all of them, or it could be connected with an old friend. On a business level, it could be I made an extra sale. I had a client reach out with a compliment. But there's lots of great things that happen. even on our darkest, worst days, we can find opportunity to be thankful for something. So what happened, and I was blown away by this, and something triggered me. I go to a program called Strategic Coach, and my coach, Dan Sullivan, said something to me about this attitude of gratitude. And I thought, wow, how can I make this a habit? And when I was with my taxi cab driver, and those who know me know I love my taxi cab drivers. This was Al Castagna in Orlando, Florida. And Al said at the end of my trip, would you like this pocket planner? And I said, you know what? I don't have any use for it. I want you to keep it. And then I said, you know what? On second thought, I'd like to, it was right at the beginning of the year. I'd like to take it and I'm going to use it as kind of a diary, a reflector of great things that happen. Within, I'm going to say a week to 10 days, I recognized just how much I had to be thankful for. And if there's a habit that's going to move you forward in life, that make you appreciate what you have right in front of you, it is the habit of having an attitude of gratitude. So there you go. The 8th habit. Thanks, Reuben, for bringing that up. Thank you all very much. So here's my attitude of gratitude coming across right now. If you want my notes, make sure that you reach out to claire@hyken.com. Just send an email to claire@hyken.com and put "Be Amazing Notes," and we'll make sure you get copies of these slides, as basic as they are. They just kind of follow the book, and you can have a great discussion with your team. And I see people are saying thank you. Thank you all for coming. My attitude of gratitude is I love doing these. Next week, we're going to do another one, and it may be, I hope nobody's upset, that this may be the last one we do. It's not that I'm running out of books, but I think that so many of us are going back to work now. And I'll continue to do these on a somewhat regular basis, may not necessarily be about a book, but next week's book is going to focus on Amaze Every Customer Every Time. Now, there are 52 tools to help create amazement. I'm not going to go through all 52. I'm going to highlight some of my favorites and just go over some of the concepts in the book. And please be here, tell your friends, bring questions, would love to work with you and be with you. So an attitude of gratitude I have for all of you. Thank you so much for being with us. I wish you all health. And if you're in the U.S., have a great holiday weekend. For those on the other side of the world, just have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next week. And then we'll go from there. Take care, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.